Good morning. Welcome to £100 and Counting. My name is Sarah and I'm on a journey to lose £100 with Slimming World. You can hear my voice this morning. I am a little full of a cold, so I'm quite croaky. It's only just come on in the last day. I feel okay. I'm just kind of bunged up. But it's Saturday morning, so I am going to my Slimming World meeting. We've now done 7 full weeks on plan. This week, if you saw my video last week, you'll know I was doing a Flexi week for the first time in terms of how I managed my swip points for the week. I had a couple of meals out. I had a lunch and an evening meal throughout the week. And my plan did go to plan, so I just stuck to 10 swips on my non-going out days, and then indulged a bit more, had a larger swip days on those other 2 days. So yeah, heading off to my meeting now to get weighed in for the week. This is my hormonal week as well. So last month on this week I maintained despite having had a good week on plan. So I am completely fine with something like that again. You know, a maintain would be fine. A very small loss would be great. But I do seem to be flipping between kind of maintains and small losses, followed by a big week, followed by a small week. So we had a big week last week at £4.5 in a week. So yeah, so not expecting anything spectacular this week. So, but yeah, let's just set off and go find out how we've done.
So I'm now back home after my meeting, and at this week's weigh-in I have gained £0.5. So as I mentioned, this week is that week where my hormones definitely take a toll on my weight loss efforts. I am absolutely prone to water retention at this phase of my cycle, and it doesn't surprise me that that might weigh more than any weight I would otherwise have lost this week. Apparently 2 to 5 pounds, which actually sounds really excessive, but is fairly normal for women who are prone to that, like myself. So for example, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, if I might have otherwise lost £1.5 this week, but I retained an extra £2 of water weight, that would explain why I have a £0.5 gain this week. So that's really just a reminder for all us ladies to be a little gentle with ourselves. There can definitely be other factors in play, especially in weeks like these, and we really just need to hold steady and trust the process. Last month I had a week like this at this time where I maintained. The week after I lost £3.5. So it'll just be a matter of coming back next week and seeing what that really looks like. It does mean, to be fair, that my jar that I keep my pebbles in that represent my weight loss, I do need to take one of these out this week. So I'm going to pop that to the side, ready to put it back in next week. So this last week I have done a Flexi week with my swip points, and it was successful in that I have been able to stick to the plan that I set out and eat more flexibly on the days where I had social occasions. Towards the end of the week though, I did definitely, and for the first time on this plan since I started in January, feel the temptation to just kind of let the plan slip a little bit. I didn't give in to it. I just carried on the week sticking to the plan I had made in terms of how many swips I was going to allow myself each day. But it was the first time this plan that I've really kind of had to battle that sensation, the temptation to just eat what you want, reset on Saturday. I've thought about it, and I think I've identified a couple of reasons really that I think this may have happened to me this week. One is that being on the kind of flexi approach can feel like bending the rules, and that's definitely a trigger for me. My brain starts thinking, well, if I can bend that rule, what about this rule? Just make an exception this one time. And that sort of thinking is dangerous for me. It leads me down a road that is difficult for me to come back from. I know myself well enough at this stage that when my brain's going, oh, you'll get back on track tomorrow, you'll get back on, track Saturday or whatever it is, it's lying, because tomorrow just turns into the next day and the next day, and then it's the next week. And before I know it, I'm just back where I started from, probably actually even in a worse situation than was when I started. So I am pleased that I recognised this in the moment, didn't let it overcome me, and stuck to the plan. I've said before that this time round for me, I know it needs to be different. I need to learn from my mistakes of the past. I need to recognise what my triggers are and work around them and find ways of staying consistent long term. So recognising that trigger in the moment and pushing through it, not falling foul of it. I'm really pleased that we got through the week without me falling off the wagon. The other thing I was thinking that may have been influencing me this week is, again, hormones. Through this week, I was in the last phase of my hormone cycle, during which, you probably know, we do tend to crave more. For some time now, I've followed an American doctor here on YouTube called Mindy Pelz. You may have come across her. She has a ton of content here. Her specific area of expertise is intermittent fasting for women. She holds to a theory that the different phases of the menstrual cycle have different nutritional and energetic demands. She promotes a plan called Fast Like a Girl, and on that she splits the menstrual cycle up into 4 different phases. And she recommends a differing eating style in each. So she recommends that in the first part of the cycle, which starts on day 1 of your period and runs for around 10 days, you eat low carb throughout and you fast as much as you're comfortable with. The next part of the cycle, which is the ovulation phase, and runs for like 3 to 4 days, she recommends then relaxing the low carbs, so eating more carbohydrates, healthier carbohydrates still, but relaxing that and not fasting for as long, kind of sticking to like no more than sort of 12 hours of fasting each day. Then it moves into another phase similar to the first one, just for another 3 to 4 days, where you're fasting more, eating low carb, and then you move into the final stage, which will run for, depending on the length of your cycle, 7 to 10 days in that phase would be normal, where you don't fast at all. So you eat breakfast within kind of an hour and a half of getting up, she recommends. And you can eat more carbohydrates throughout that phase as well. You'll eat more overall in that phase because you are starting to eat earlier. And that's that phase effectively that I've just come out of. So I'm covering that at a very kind of just high level. She wrote a book called Fast Like a Girl, so I will link that in the description for anyone who's interested. I'll also link her YouTube channel there because, as I say, she has a ton of material there anyway that you can access for free. And if you are already menopausal, it's still relevant to you. She's menopausal herself now. And in fact, she actually also wrote a book called The Menopause Reset. I'll link that as well, why not? And she has a lot of content about that on the channel as well. She effectively does recommend that you still follow a cycle program. So you just name, day 1, you just pick that, your body's not picking it for you, you pick it yourself, and then follow a 28-day routine that follows that. So I have followed this myself in the past. I did it for around, the best part of 6 months last year, and it's not necessarily specifically a weight loss program, but if you're following a healthy lifestyle and doing that, it can support weight loss. And I lost about 20 pounds doing that over the course of about 6 months. I wasn't trying really hard to lose weight. I was actually doing it to try and help with my perimenopause symptoms. Losing a bit of weight along the way was welcome, but it wasn't my main focus. And it does help with that, and it's going to be something I'm going to try and look at incorporating back into my program right now. I just haven't prioritized it, but I am already finding that I'm naturally leaning into intermittent fasting again anyway, as I have adjusted to this re-entering a healthy lifestyle. So based on Dr Mindy's assessment of how that hormone cycle affects the demands your body makes on you, that kind of makes sense as well, that I just would have been craving more this week. So putting in lower swip days during that period probably wasn't the best choice for me when you consider that. So I think that could also have contributed to those sensations of temptation during this time. Despite all of that, though, I hold to what I said last week, and that is that I do think a Flexi week still has its place in the programme when you need it. I think my experience this week does support why Slimming World don't necessarily like to encourage it. That trigger of unhealthier habits that it can bring on. So I think I demonstrated that to myself and will bear that in mind. But understanding my own reaction to it just helps me plan, I think, better next time I need to use it. It's definitely not going to be something I want to use frequently, though. Something I know about myself and have demonstrated this week, I think, too, is that I really thrive on routine, especially when it comes to, staying consistent for a healthy lifestyle. A Flexi week does throw that off somewhat, so I need to be careful. But this week is done, and back to that routine is exactly where I'm going. So I'm going to stick to my 20 swip a day limit each individual day. I am aiming to use hopefully all, but certainly most of my my swip allowance every day. I talked about that last week and why I think that's important. So if you didn't see last week's video and you want to know more about my thoughts on that, just go back and take a look. I will be back on YouTube midweek with a recipe video this week. I do apologise because I know I promised that last week. If you may have seen my my message to you all midweek when I realised I wasn't going to be able to get that to you. Had a mishap with the microphone on the camera. Also took a big chunk out of my thumb, which nobody wants to see happen. I could have edited that out, but yeah, the audio thing was a problem. So that was a learning lesson for me. I'll be making sure to sound check my recordings at the start going forward. But yeah, I'm filming tomorrow. I'm re-filming tomorrow. So I'll almost certainly have that out by Wednesday for you. And that is everything from me for this week. So I hope you all have great weeks. I'm certainly planning on having a great week and coming back next week with a nice loss. Goodbye from me, and thanks for watching.